How am I supposed to talk about this one? It's impossible. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you have not been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. And I've just read a book that I have no idea how I'm supposed to talk to you about it. It's like a roller coaster. It's like 8 roller coasters merged into one. There's so many overlaps and those who have read this book will understand the difficulties in talking about this book. This book is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. Anyway, so that is the front cover of the book, the blurb. Let's just get straight in there. How do you stop a murder that's already happened? Somebody's going to be murdered at the ball tonight, and it won't appear to be a murder, so the murderer won't be caught. Rectify that injustice and I'll show you the way out. It is meant to be a celebration, but it ends in tragedy. As fireworks explode overhead, Evelyn Hardcastle, the young and beautiful daughter of the house, is killed. But Evelyn will die not just once. Until Aidan, one of the guests summoned to Blackheath for the party, can solve her murder, the day will repeat itself over and over again, every time ending with the fateful pistol shot. The only way to break this cycle is to identify the killer, but each time the day begins, Aidan wakes up in the body of a different guest, and someone is determined to prevent him ever escaping Blackheath. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I have literally finished reading this about 5 minutes ago in the car. Now, I do not do well reading in cars. I get travel sickness. I get car sick. The only mode of transportation I can read in or do anything in is an airplane. Cars, buses, trains, can't do it. Cannot concentrate on anything else apart from like music. I can't play games, I can't read, I can't watch anything in a car without being sick. So the fact that tonight I was able to read this book in the car on the way to and on the way home from my cousin's house is a complete miracle. It's a complete miracle. This book was a ride. It started off a bit slow, I'll admit that. It took me a few chapters to really kind of get to grips with stuff. I think it has to do with the fact that you don't find out for the first about 5 chapters what the actual goal is. Admittedly, I didn't really read the blurb. Scratch that. I didn't read the blurb at all before I read the book. So, I'd heard bits about the book. It's been kind of unavoidable because it's a book that's kind of been everywhere. I've heard multiple YouTubers talk about this book. I saw the book in person at my local bookshop thinking, that sounds interesting, just by looking at the front cover and the fact that it's called The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. There's a little note kind of with the blurb on here that says, a brilliantly original high-concept murder mystery from a fantastic new talent. Gosford Park meets Inception by way of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. And actually there were points in the book when I just thought, is this going to have an Orient Express moment where you feel like everybody did it? Didn't quite go that route, but there was lots of it's a very twisty-turny book. It's 528 pages in crime and thriller, historical and science fiction. It's basically, because as I was trying to describe this to family members who have been wondering why this book has been so distracting to me, I've basically described it as like Groundhog Day with murder mystery thrown in. Because he's repeating the same day 8 times to figure out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. That is his goal. And he finds out about 3 people in what his goal is. There's a man who he calls the Plague Doctor because he wears a plague mask. So you meet Aidan in the first chapter under guise of a doctor. He wakes up with the name Anna in his head. He hears a scream. He thinks it's Anna and he thinks that Anna is being killed. He runs into the house with no memories of who he is, and with just the name Anna, and basically telling everybody there's a woman called Anna and she has been killed outside in the gardens. He's woken up, he's been attacked, he's woken up all bloody and scratched, and that's your first introduction to him. You don't find out his name is Aidan until about 3 people in, when he's woken up with new memories, still with memories from the person he was before. It's just... I'm going to say it probably took me a couple of months to read this, mainly because the beginning was a bit slower, and this is a book where I really can't say much about it because of the layers in it and the fact that it is a murder mystery and everything you find out. There was only one point when I had kind of a guessing of kind of like who might have done it, but then just when you think you're on the right path, something else comes out and you're just like, wait, no, that doesn't make sense though. So you're there with Aidan trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and it's literally a puzzle because he is taking things he has learned as different people to find out what happened that day. You keep seeing the same day from different people's point of view through the eyes of one person. Does that make any sense? I think it probably make more sense when you read it, because Aidan is very aware that he does not belong to the bodies that he is inhabiting. He wakes up and he knows that there's another voice in there telling him, this is not who you are, you've woken up in somebody else's body. On that first day, he knows that he's not the person he's woken up as, and then when the following day he realises, wait, I've already done this day, what is going on? So when he finally meets the plague doctor about 3 people in, I said not 3 chapters, it's more than 3 chapters, but it's when he'd woken up in his 3rd body that he actually finds out what the goal is. And he's just like, why couldn't you tell me this on the first day? Because now I've wasted 3 days not knowing what I needed to remember. And then as you go through, you realise that he has done this before. He's lived these 8 days before, forgetting everything when he messes everything up on the last night. Because the point is that he actually needs to tell the plague doctor who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. And he ends up, because the name Anna is the one that he kind of wakes up with on that first day, so throughout all of it, everything comes back to Anna. And you soon find out that actually he's working with Anna, and Anna is helping him to figure everything out, and so they're essentially working together to try and get out of this loop. And then also, because he does end up inside 8 different people, he's meeting versions of himself throughout the day, because everything that he has done, or everything he will do, affects the day. Does that make any sense? It's really hard to describe something that's in a time loop. This has made me realise this, because like when he wakes up in somebody else's body and he's just like, wait, I saw this person do this, so I need to do this to make sure that the day still happens. And then the plague doctor's there going, yeah, you can't manipulate things. There might be some small things that you might be able to change, but ultimately you cannot save Evelyn. No matter what, she's always going to die at the same time every single night. So even though at the beginning he's determined to stop her from dying because he makes friends with her when in his first host, after the first host, Evelyn doesn't like the other people who he ends up going into. So his friendship with Evelyn is based on one interaction with her in the host of Dr. Bell, which is the first person he ends up going into. I think that's quite an interesting thing to see, kind of like who he wakes up as and how he wakes up as people. And you realise that the plague doctor has kind of broken the rules slightly for him, because there comes a point when you realise that originally he was just supposed to live out the day as each person, and then the plague doctor realised that that wasn't going to work. He was never going to figure it out if he just lived one day as one person until they fell asleep and then woke up in the next one. So throughout the book you see him flashing back to other days and other people depending on what time they woke up or fell asleep. It's like there's one guy who's attacked who wakes up several times. I think it's day 2, or is it day 3? I think it's day 2 that he keeps coming back to day 2 because the host of day 2 is injured quite badly. And so he keeps like falling asleep and waking back up again, or falling asleep and waking back up again. And you see that the plague doctor visits day 2 quite a lot to communicate with Aidan, because he still has all the memories running through. So even if he's on like day 5 and the host on day 5 falls asleep, it means he can wake up on day 2 again so that the plague doctor can talk to him. This probably sounds completely balmy, but it was so good. As somebody who loves a really good murder mystery, I've grown up watching stuff like Poirot and Agatha Christie, so this is perfect for Agatha Christie fans. My mum's always had that thing for those kind of murder mysteries. I mean, I even grew up watching Jonathan Creek. I mean, this really does. I mean, there's a note at the very end of the book from the author where he says how influenced he was by Agatha Christie growing up, and you can really feel it in the book from like the layout of the house and the grounds. And I really enjoyed this book. As I said, it was a bit of a slow burner to begin with, but then once you find out what Aidan's actual goal is, and you see him in the different bodies and finding out their strengths and their weaknesses, because there's a host that he wakes up in and he realises this is an old man, he's an overweight man, he can't really move that much, and he's just like, whereas that would be a disadvantage, at the same time he's got this older man who, you know, can't take a few steps without feeling absolutely exhausted. He's got a very sharp mind, so he has to take advantage of the good things of the hosts. So it's like when he wakes up in a younger man after being in the old one, he's just like, oh, I can move, I can run, but then he's also aware of this young guy's very abusive nature. Like it doesn't take much for him to get like really angry, and it's just like he's trying to settle that personality inside of him. I say inside of him because I mean he's inside the people. It's very confusing to talk about, so I feel like I just need to shut up about it now, because otherwise you're just going to get even more and more confused. But yeah, it's just such a clever concept. It's like an Agatha Christie murder mystery brought to the modern day, and towards the end when you start to find out like what's going on, how everything starts to fit together, and then it kind of brings in the sci-fi futuristic side of it as well, because throughout the book you feel like you're set like a lot in the past, which you are, then you realise there's a kind of a futuristic twist on it. That probably sounds really, really bizarre, but yeah, just read it. If you like a good murder mystery, you will enjoy this book. The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This slow burner, but once you get into the nitty-gritty, it's absolutely fabulous. I am very intrigued to other books that he comes up with. Yeah, if this is kind of the start of his career, I'd love to see where it goes. It says this is his debut novel. At first I thought, is this really going to be worth the hype? But it really was. It really was. There were certain points when it felt like some questions were being left unanswered, but then you realise, because you're seeing, even though you're seeing it through Aidan's point of view, and then you realise he's meeting versions of himself throughout the day, you realise, oh wait, even though he hasn't figured it out in this host, he is figuring it out in other hosts, technically on the same day. So by the time he gets to day 8, you're still getting the same story from like host number 1 and host number 2 and host number 3. It's like it's all happening on the same day essentially. So there were points where it's just like, but wait, we haven't learnt about this. But then when you finally get to host 8 and you're just like, oh, or is it host 7? It's somewhere toward the end where I was there thinking, but what about this and what about that? And then it was just like, oh wait, no, he's just answered it for me. Something that we haven't heard really be talked about since about host number 4 or 5 is finally being addressed over in this host. So by the end of it, you do actually have all the answers. It's just because of the way it's told and the way he jumps through the hosts and the days, it kind of goes back on itself. As you can tell, my brain is exploding at the moment. But yeah, if you like a murder mystery with a bit of a twist, go read it. Yeah, and it was winner of the Costa Book Award in 2019, and yes, that is Costa Coffee. There's a picture of Costa Coffee on the front. It's the Costa Book Awards winner 2018. It says 2018 there, but this is 2019 in the blurb, so I'm not quite sure which one, but it did win one. and it was released in 2018. Yeah, so it must have been 2018. Oh. If it depends on when the Costa Book Awards were. 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Stuart Turton. Go read it, go read it, go read it. So, ones that I've got access to at the moment, I've got The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman and The Familiars by Stacey Halls. And then I've got 3 other books which are on loan, but they're not available yet. So I've got the audiobook of The Lucky Escape, then I've got The Chateau, and then the one after that, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I've seen some comparisons to stuff like Sunset Boulevard, a little bit All About Eve, so I'm very intrigued by that one. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to shut up and go have a cup of tea. It's too late for a cup of tea, it's 8:30, and I'm at work at 9:30 tomorrow, so yeah. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week with another video. What? I don't quite know at the moment. There will be another one. See you next Wednesday. Bye!